welcome back to another Commander Deck Tech. My name is Scott, and I've got a viewer suggested one today. Very interesting one. So Gonti, Lord of Luxury. I had done a Reddit post a few months ago, and Gonti was by far like the thing that people talked about when talking about Mono Black, because I had asked some questions, you know, what are people's opinions about the trend of Mono Black, and people just kept bringing up Gonti. So I hadn't built a Gonti deck. I definitely played Gonti a lot in Standard. I do love the card. I did make an Avanox deck, and of course it had Gonti in it. But yeah, I've never actually gone ahead and made my own Gonti deck. So I thought, okay, well, let's give it a go. So Gonti's just kind of like a generically good card, right? 4 mana, 2/3 Death Touch. So great for blocking, things like that. And then you get one of your opponent's cards, right? And that's where the fun part really happens, is obviously, you know, playing your opponent's cards, having a look through their deck and choosing which cards you want to play. So I really like that aspect, and I think with Avanox it's also quite fun as well, but you don't get as much selection, obviously. With that, with Gonti, you get to select and choose. So it really lends to that kind of flicker style, I guess. You know, we are in Mono Black, right? So flicker doesn't really exist very well in Mono Black. So we have to do it, you know, in our certain way. So I really tried to build around Enter the Battlefield and trying to maximize a bit of Gonti's triggers, as well as all the other creatures that I'll be playing, right? So it's not going to necessarily just like, you can't just flicker Gonti over and over and over. Really, in Mono Black, it's actually quite difficult. But we have a lot of Enter the Battlefield creatures in this deck, right? So we've got, with just some of those support cards and a lot of Enter the Battlefields, we're just going to get a lot of triggers and a lot of value, right? So Gonti is just a great value deck. So we'll go through it. So first up, Blade of Selves. So nice that it was reprinted. Essentially, it's going to give our creature Myriad. Now with Gonti, Gonti is legendary, but essentially for the 4 mana equip, we are just going to get 3 of Gonti's triggers, right? Which is what we want, as well as any other Enter the Battlefield creatures that we are playing. They will also get the same. Now, not all of them are legendary, so some of them will still benefit well from Myriad, but the fact is, it's just the values there with just getting Gonti's triggers, and the idea is that with that much selection in our opponent's decks, we are getting cards that we want to play. All right, so we're just here just to get triggers. Shrine Resonator, again, you're going to hear me say this a lot. Enter the Battlefield triggers. We've got a lot of triggering abilities going on. So just being able to copy them nice and cheap. 2 mana can come down before Gonti and try to get there just so that we can then copy that ability. Mimic Deck is essentially, you know, a way of copying those abilities. So it can serve as a bit of exile hate. So when any creature dies, we can choose to put under the Mimic Deck, right? So if we want an opponent's creature that has a nice Enter the Battlefield, we can definitely do that. Or maybe we want to get rid of something that they can recur. We can also do that. But then we are making tokens, and those tokens are exiled at the end of the turn. We don't care, right? Because we want to really focus on things that are getting Enter the Battlefield. So just being able to make tokens of those things that die. And, you know, we are in black, so we have a bit of sacrifice outlets and things like that, as well as, you know, creatures just naturally dying. So quite nice. Only 3 mana. And then Lithiform Engine. This one, essentially, you know, a souped up Shrine Resonator. We're going to pay 4. We're going to pay 2 to copy the ability. But we can also choose some of the other effects on this card, which is really, really nice. So we can copy the target instant sorcery. That one I haven't really messed with a lot. It's not really something that I would do in here. But we can copy target permanent spell, right? So it will just become a copy, a token, right? So we're getting additional Enter the Battlefield effects. So really nice. And then Panharmonicon, pretty much great for any kind of flicker. But again, Enter the Battlefields, we want to trigger them as much as possible. They're coming in. We get a trigger twice, right? So quite nice. And Conjurer's Closet, once a turn, at the end of our turn, we're going to essentially flicker, right? This is the only real flicker we can get. So it's, you know, decent enough in here. Just getting that each turn. It's nice that it's end step as well. So we get that value. Okay, so some that are synergistic kind of with Gonti's abilities of using my opponent's libraries. So I went with Intellect Devourer. This one, it also has an enter the battlefield ability. We get to essentially, choose cards from our opponent's hands, and then we can play those, right? So essentially, it's like Gonti, except from the hand. And also, our opponents choose. So it's a mini kind of weaker version of Gonti, but supporting our enter the battlefields. And then Author of Shadows. So actually, I was surprised at how much graveyard hate I was able to put into this deck, which was really nice. So as well as Mimivac, we've got this, right? So we exile all cards from all opponents' graveyards. Then I can choose non-land cards exiled this way, and I can cast those cards, right, and spend it. Again, another kind of Gonti ability, but it's straight from our opponent's graveyards. Great for when they're, doing their ramp thing and all that. Brainstealer Dragon. So here to support the kind of taking our opponent's permanents. So at the beginning of your end step, exile the top card of each opponent's library, and I can play those, right? And then whenever a non-land permanent opponent owns enters the battlefield under our control, they lose life. So this one is only with permanents, so keep that in mind. But with Gonti, you get that selection. But it's here also just to kind of support that stealing of opponent's library. It's a Sepulchral Primordial, stealing from people's graveyards. It's just great value. Get that enter the battlefield trigger. Get people's creatures out of their graveyard. But with some of our support cards, we can get it twice. Thieving Amalgam. So at the beginning of each opponent's upkeep, we manifest, right? So they become 2/2 creatures. And whenever a creature you control but don't own dies, its owner loses 2 life, right? So here it's just us to get stuff from our opponent's library, just like Gonti, but also a little life loss and a little life gain as well. Just again, supporting that facility, but this one is obviously only for creatures. Okay, so some miscellaneous enter the battlefield dies effects, I guess. You'll see what I mean by mono black blink soon enough, but it can support a bit of a dies strategy. I didn't think there was too many that were in the kind of dies thing that I wanted to kind of keep bringing it back because we're going to have things enter the battlefield a lot, whether they flicker or whether perhaps maybe they die. So Kakusho, just great value, and if we can do this multiple times, it's a great reach as well. So nice. Doughty Voidwalker. So this one doesn't really support that strategy other than it's playing cards from our opponents, which is great. Serves as graveyard hate. Just really stuffs up a lot of people's decks. I find that, Doughty Voidwalker is just hard not to play in any strategy. This is a great card. Grave Titan. So here we're going to get some tokens. We're going to try and, go wide with our board. We've got a lot of creatures, but a lot of them are big, heavy, expensive ones. So, Grave Titan will allow us to help protect ourselves as well as get that trigger happening, both copying the trigger as well as getting Panamonic when it comes in, right? So it supports that. Then Great Merchant of Asphodel, a nice win condition. We have a lot of permanents in play, a lot of Black Devotion. Gonti's 2 Black Pips as well. So we've got a lot of devotion going on. So Great Merchant of Asphodel, great for reach. Okay, so Flicker and Mono Black. Right, so other than, Conjurer's Closet, it doesn't really exist too much. But what we can do is we can bring creatures from the graveyard back to the battlefield, actually quite easily. So there's a lot of these Feigned Death style abilities, Undying Evil, Undying Malice, all that kind of stuff, right? They've really bumped up how many of these they're making. Usually they're for a draft. But they could be really nice, right? So we sacrifice our creature and it's just going to come back, sometimes with a benefit, sometimes not. But essentially that is our Flicker. It's going to go to the graveyard, come back. So Feigned Death, great. Malakir Rebirth, we lose some life, but it's a land on the other side, so fantastic. Phyrexian Reclamation, we can just have things go to the graveyard, no problems. We have no problems with that, and then we can just return it our hand to cast. I did try to avoid too many of these return it to my hand kind of flickers, you know, have it, play it, and then return it to my hand. I think that's just too mana intensive. But Phyrexian Reclamation, just nice and cheap, can come down early and can really start getting those creatures back into our hand. Reanimate, classic, you know, we're going to lose life, but that's okay. Straight for the graveyard. Undying Malice, again, we can sacrifice a creature, it comes back, it's tapped, but we don't care, we're getting that value from the trigger. Animate Dead, another reanimate, just comes straight back into the battlefield, great. Junji, I think, is the other dies effect. I think both these dragons are decent enough. It also has a reanimate effect, so I think the only other dragon's Kukusho, if I remember correctly. So, you know, they obviously don't work, but you know, Gonti, you play Gonti, you get the trigger, you block, you put in the graveyard, you get Junji, you sacrifice Junji, you get Gonti back, you know, right? So you're just getting all these kind of repetitive triggers, as well as copying those triggers. So yeah, I didn't want too many dies again, because, you know, we got things like Conjurer's Closet and Pandemonicon, but I think some of these still serve some value. Phyrexian Delver, another reanimation tool. This one's on and enter the battlefield, so it's great for you know, your Junji and your Kukushos in the graveyard, and then you can just do this and copy that trigger, get your Gonti back and your, you know, your Junji. Right, so very, very nice value. Of course, you're going to lose some life, but you know, we'll have to manage that. We're in black. Rescue from the Otherworld's been an interesting one. I don't really see it played a lot outside of maybe Gonti. The interesting thing is that the additional cost is to sacrifice, and then you can return that creature you sacrifice plus another creature, right? So you sacrifice Gonti just to get Gonti and the other creature back, as opposed to Victimize, where you have the creature and you get two other creatures. So A, we have to have two creatures in our graveyard, and B, we can't get back the creature that we wanted to die in the first place. But in this case, it's instant speed, and we can get that same creature back, right? So we want Gonti to come back. Sacrifice, great. Obviously, sacrifice outlet, but we have a lot of chunky creatures, right? So a lot of them have high mana values. So sacrifice is great just to kind of get that multiple spells going in one turn, just to get, okay, I can play this spell, get it enter the battlefield, have it die, play another big creature, or, you know, have it come back, things like that, right? For Seer, so another sack outlet, just great, super cheap, can come down before any of our big creatures come down, and obviously serves as Scry 1, which is nice. Ashnod's Altar serves for some additional mana, which is great. We have a lot of things with black pips in it, but you know, 2 black and 2 colorless is great for Gonti, for instance. Phyrexian Altar, just nice, gives us any color, of course, usually black. And then your Mothran position, just solid sacrifice outlet. We're going to pay a life, we're going to sacrifice that creature, we're going to put a counter, we're going to draw a card, right? So all great things. Discarding a card usually hasn't really come up, but you know, you might want a Phyrexian Delver, for instance. You can get 2 creatures back if you're copying the trigger, so you might want to put something in there. Not really something I've done before, not in this deck anyway. It's really just for that sack outlet. Okay, removal. Defile, we're playing a lot of swamps as usual. -1 gets around indestructible, it's been great. Feed the swamp. We can't really deal with enchantments, especially like Rest in Peace and things like that. So, you know, feed the swamp, just great for that. Playcrafter, I probably wouldn't play something like this normally, but it's an enter the battlefield trigger on our removal creature. It is sacrifice. You know, you could get some planeswalkers, and you know, they can discard a card if they don't have anything, right? So you can always get some value. So I don't think I'd play any other of these style effects. You know, there is a range of these ones. This one's probably the best one, and I think that's okay to play. Toxic Deluge, great board wipe. You know, again, just like Defile gets around negatives, indestructible, sorry. Deadly Rollick, we definitely want to play our commander. We want it on 4. We want to kind of get those triggers going. So having this on for free has been great. Aggro Mauling, a really bad murder, but it's a land on the other side, so fantastic. Mutilate, another, you know, Defile effect, Toxic Deluge effect for each swamp. We have a lot of swamps, so that's fine with us. Ravenous Chupacabra. So, you know, I normally play this in, like, say, like a Reanimator, or, you know, I'll enter the battlefield kind of style deck, which is great, right? Because we want to be copying those triggers, having them multiple times, so hopefully we can get some multiple creatures out of reanimate. This is fantastic in this deck. And then Massacre Girl, I absolutely love this card. I think it's really, really good, but really underplayed. It obviously has some downside of if the board state is not really suitable for this, it's going to be a problem. But with Panharmonicon, we can at least start off with the negative one twice. So, you know, if there are 2 toughness creatures, and usually once you get 1 lot, then they just start snowballing, right? So just being able to get that little bit extra, I found to be really, really nice. But I do really love this card. I think a lot of board states really do support this card. Shriekmaw, you know, enter the battlefield just like Ravenous Chupacabra, can come down super early. Of course, non-black, non-unfact, but that's okay. Massacre Worm. I rarely get to play this card, so it's been really fantastic to be able to put this one in. -2/-2. You know, you sometimes get creatures and things like that, but -4/-4, that's fun. That's real fun, right? So just having this come down and essentially, I forget the board white. That's -4. And you know, and then ongoing, it can service some reach as well. Noxious Gearhulk, you know, another Ravenous Chupacabra, but we get a little bit of life gain. I did found that life gain was a little bit lacking in this deck, so having this was really, really nice. Again, supporting multiple triggers. And then Archon Cruelty. I was not really into Archon of Cruelty in Commander, but after playing it, you know, it's enter the battlefield, so hopefully we can get that twice. Attacks your opponent, or target opponent discards. You're drawing cards, they're losing life, I'm getting life. So yes, it is target, but it's just so much value. I do absolutely love this card. I love the art. I love its effects. I play it in multiple decks. I've got it in legacy decks. Like, yeah, so much fun. Okay, ramp. So we do need a little bit more ramp than, say, usual. We are playing a lot of our opponent's cards, you know, and we want to make sure that we have mana for that. So Bubbling Muck, just to double up on the swamps. Dark Ritual, just a create burst of mana. Wayfarer's Baubles to get their swamp out. Arcane Signet, nice 2 mana rock. We've got a whole bunch of these. Fellwhite Stone, you know, black is very popular. You most likely have black. Jet Medallion, we have a lot of black permanents, not too many artifacts, for instance. Mind Stone can help draw a card if we need. Thought Vessel, sometimes I'm playing my opponent's cards, so I have cards in my hand, but really the no maximum hand size usually doesn't come up. It's just there as a 2 mana mana rock. Cryptgrass, playing a lot of swamps, great for life gain as well. Defiler of Flesh, I've been liking more and more. We, again, playing a lot of black permanents, so we are getting that reduction a lot of the case. The trigger, you know, doesn't really matter too much, but sometimes you get to swing in, which is nice. But yeah, it's really just to help with that Phyrexia mana. Scepter of Eternal Glory, I've been really liking. I think I need to up my swamp counts, just to make sure that I'm consistently getting 3 swamps by turn 4. So I think I need to increase it more. I need to play test a bit more. I was going down to 22 swamps, but I think I might need to push it up. But yeah, it's been a nice burst of mana, that's for sure. Solemn Simulacrum, just great, get those swamps out. The kind of Revenant, we want to double those swamps, we want a lot of that swamp mana. And then Crick, Son of Yawgmoth, to play the black spells, obviously. And we can also play our opponent's black spells if we choose some. So that's always been nice as well. Okay, so some draw. Deadly Dispute, so this one serves as an additional sack outlet. So, you know, I had that handful of sack outlets. Don't want too many as it's not really that focused, but it really does support the you know, Undying Malice and Feigned Death style cards. But this one's nice because you know, we get a treasure back, right? So it's really only the 1 mana. We get to draw some cards. Nice. Whisper, just classic 2 mana, draw 2. Plumb the Forbidden, another one where we just want to sacrifice those creatures, get them in the graveyard for our Phyrexian Delvers and those style effects. But it's nice, you know, we'll get to draw some cards as well. Sign in Blood, another classic 2 mana, draw 2. black market connections. You know, the more and more I play it, the better this is. It's just absolutely a card that I put in pretty much every deck now. Really great. I find more and more I am doing treasures and cards, especially the earlier in the game. I'm not, even in this deck, I'm not really doing the token. But yeah, it's just so much value, so much. It's ramp and card draw in one card. Really, really great. Phyrexian Arena, just simple 3 mana, can come down before Gonti, start getting that card draw. Protection Racket, another nice, interesting card. I don't play this one in too many decks, but it really serves as a bit of reach for us. Because, you know, I'm playing Grey Merchant of Asphodel and things like that, but I'm not really, you know, I'm going to try and loop Grey Merchant as a win condition, but I really want to start whittling down my opponent's life totals, and sometimes I'm swinging out with like a Grave Titan or something like that, but, you know, so this really does try to serve as a bit of reach, as well as a bit of card draw, especially, you know, we've got some big fatties, right? So they don't want to take 8 and not give me Archon of Cruelty, but you know, they don't give you lands. So, especially if you're mana screwed and you kind of need that land, your opponents are not going to give it to you, obviously. Unless you can, you know, really good at politics, I guess. And you need the land. But, yeah, such a great card. A lot of fun. Read the Bones. Just classic, scry 2, draw 2. Alright, and then lands. So, pretty stock standard. Bajuka Bog, great for Graveyard Hate. Cabal Coffers, we're playing a lot of swamps, so, you know, we're going to tap for them. Cabal Stronghold, you know, weaker Cabal Coffers, but again, a lot of basic swamps, so that's okay for us. Later game, it becomes more. Command Beacon, so this is a kind of a different one than I'm playing this one, just to, when Gonti gets a little bit more expensive, I can just play this and kind of get that last effect, hopefully try to dig for something in my opponent's deck. High Market, just as a free sack outlet. You know, this one's probably one of the weaker cards in this where, you know, you don't need it too much. But if you just want to kind of like feign death, get something back, High Market's nice because it's essentially free. Myriad Landscape just serves as ramp, get those swamps out. Nixthos trying to nix, so, you know, Gonti's 2 pips, so, you know, we only really need another thing, and it can start tapping for additional mana. Phyrexian Tower, great sacrifice outlet, gives you mana. Strip Mine, definitely play some kind of land removal land in your decks. I do play Strip Mine, but depending on the budget, you might play Ghost Quarter or Demolition Field that's coming out in Brothers War. I definitely think that that's going to replace every land destruction card in any semi-budget deck. But, you know, Strip Mine, Wasteland in this slot, you might even play more. Takanuma, Abandoned Mire, a lot of things are going in the graveyard. We can get those things back. The mill's okay. We've got a lot of recursion. Just really supportive, and it doesn't, you know, doesn't come in tap, so great. Urborg just turns everything into swamps. Really, really nice. And then War Room, just to serve as a bit of card draw. You know, it's only 1 life for us. And then 23 swamps. So a lot of swamps. So, yeah, Gonti has been great. I think it's the most, like, mid kind of decks you can make where you know, your opponents are not going to really appreciate you taking their cards, but a lot of chaos can ensue, and I think that's a lot of fun, especially for yourself and you know, perhaps, you know, people around the table as well. Of course, if you're playing their win conditions and things like that, you know, maybe they might have some issues, but it has been a lot of fun. Just tabling it. Nobody's really going to get upset with a Gonti deck. It's been great. Death Touch is just really, really solid just to help kind of keep you safe, which are really nice because we just care about the trigger, and then after that, I can just block things if I want, right? So no one's attacking you. So it's really, really nice. So you get a lot of time to set up. Anyway, that's the deck. I hope you enjoyed as much as I did. Great, thank you.